Dear students, good morning. This is the class for May the 25th, 2020 for Asia e Africa 1. This is our last week of classes, and I want to tell you a couple of things before we start. First of all, for the Erasmus students, you know that I've explained how to book your exams and all the things that you have to do before the exam in a video in English, but the text was written in Italian. One of our, another teacher prepared the text in English. So if you go to my pagina personale docente and if you go to my pagina personale docente or my Moodle, you can read the text actually. And so I think that that's going to be definitely better for you. And if this is the last week, so you know my email. If you have any questions, anything that I can help you with, just send me an email or write in the comment box. As you can see, I try to answer them on as soon as you send them, or at least on a daily basis. Other than that, nothing else. I mean, I highly recommend doing the exercises that your mother tongue teachers have been preparing for you. If you go to my Moodle, there's a link to another Moodle that includes all the mother tongue teachers for all the classes. So just look for the last name that you should be attending. I said Professor Haslam in our case, but you can also follow Professor Grosso, who has other exercises. And that's it. I mean, the dates for the exam are the 24th of June. Just give me a second. I want to double check. But they are the 24th of June at 2 p.m. I'm going later on, once you've all booked your exams, I'm going to send out some messages where I'm going to divide you into groups, okay? Because let's say that, for instance, I can do 10 students from, well, that's a little too much maybe. I can do a certain amount of students from 2 to 3, then I can do from 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and you know that usually June is very active. There are lots of students who want to take their exams, so you're probably going to also be divided into days. The reason for which I ask you I'm going to divide you is that that will save your time and save my time, because you're just going to log into Meet at the time that I'm going to ask you to, okay? But anyway, you'll receive further details about that later on. I just want to pause the video a second because I want to double check that they gave me the time that I asked them to. Okay, yes, so I can confirm that our exams for Asia Africa 1 are, well, you can choose June the 24th, 2020 at 2 p.m. Or you can choose July the 20th, same time. And then there are some dates in September that you can check on the S3 system. For those of you Erasmus students who don't know how that works, you have to go, well, I can see it on the teacher's end, but anyway, it should be the same more or less for you. So you go to Studenti, of course, you click on here, and it's going to ask you for a password. You go here, where is it? S3 Servizi Online. Okay, and now from now onwards, I can't guide you because mine is Docente, but anyway, they ask you for a password, and then you have a list of all the exams that you can take with the time. You just click on it, click on the button, and I guess you book it. Okay, and I know that you certainly have a WhatsApp group so that you can help each other with that. Italian students, please do help your Erasmus students, colleagues, but I know that you are pretty awesome on that and you are collaborating with them, so no problems at all. Just ask them. Going to what we did last week. Well, we were talking about Creoles in the UK and in the US, and we analyzed two cases: London Jamaican, or London Creole, and African American Vernacular English for the United States. I said that this course is going to focused actually mainly on the varieties of English that are spoken in Asia, and in Africa. But I just wanted to throw these two situations in to show you what happens within the inner circle. And so we said that London Creole, or also known as Patois, is a combination of Jamaican Creole, Punjabi, Hindi, Urdu, Kurdish, Turkish, whoever entered the London community, we can say. What happens with this is that initially it was used only by these communities. Then later on, it moved on to becoming a sort of group identity, a symbol of group identity, not only for Black British children, but also for white adolescents who had established friendships within the Black communities. And this is called, from a linguistic point of view, it's called a process of recreolization. This means that it is no longer, this variety is no longer a Creole. It had moved forward, and then it got back. It shifted back to a Creole form because it became a sort of restricted language, meaning that it's not understandable by people who do not speak it. Say. Plus, in this case, nowadays, those who speak Jamaican Creole are also fluent in British English, so they know how to switch from one to another. It is not used for communicative functions, so it's lost its primary function. It just gives you a symbol of, it just provides a symbol of group identity, let's say. And I gave you an example to watch. As for the features, they are the same that we see in other varieties of English. Elimination of tenses, no that is used for a negation. Maybe some typical phonological features were that B, the sound B, is usually followed by a labialization, so boys for boys. Or that schwa is not used at all. So a word like rapper, if you wanted to pronounce it with the British English, would become closer to rappa instead of rappa. And obviously the article the, that becomes dental, so da or di, depending on whether you are saying, these people are saying the or the. And then we moved on to Ebonics, to African American Vernacular English, and we saw that, again, this type of language, this variety of English is spoken as, is defined as improper English, not recognized by many people. And we looked at all the features, the ain't, the reduction of the final class of the final vowel, the sound th and the that are sometimes usually replaced by f or v. And I told you that I wanted to ask my African American student. She's learning Italian, and we were wondering about this Ebonics debate, the African American debate. What did I say about this? Okay, there was this resolution according to which they wanted to teach English and other subjects through African American Vernacular English so that these kids were not left behind. And my student didn't really know how to answer, but we tried to figure it out. And this was the question. White conservatives, some white conservatives, supremacists, did not want to pass the resolution. But there were also some obstacles coming from and criticism coming from the African American community. And so we talked a lot about it, and we eventually figured out that maybe it is a matter of resistance, of not wanting to open up to English, a matter of pride, because they fear, some African Americans fear that this could be this could be a form to weaken African American vernacular English. And this student, particularly, she's in the 30s, and she said, well, I can code switch. My dad says lots of things that I need to, her dad, of course, speaks African American vernacular English, and he does not, well, he does speak English, but he's more prone to using African American vernacular English, especially at home. And so she said, well, maybe it's just a matter of pride, of trying to keep our culture, because it means a lot to us. So yes, that kind of satisfied me as an answer, but yes, you can. And then you sent me some messages about what you think could be the answer. Now, as for today, we're going to go back to ELF, so English is a lingua franca, and education. So basically, how teachers are trying to teach English as a lingua franca, or actually, it's better to say, what are the options on how to teach it, since it's not taught that much, actually. So we all know that English continues to be taught from the native speaker perspective, meaning that people usually want to learn and teach English from the inner circle. And it is also because it is teaching English as a lingua franca has been giving researchers a really hard time. They don't know how it could be taught or approached in a classroom. There are just lots of suggestions, and however, teachers are still reluctant to finding a purpose for it, or trying to teach it at least. Well, according to some scholars, like Kogo and Dewey, 2012, this is what teachers could do. First thing, they could start talking about Englishes, okay? Introducing their students to the global diversity of Englishes, the forms, the several forms, the different varieties that they can encounter around the world. And this should at least give students an insight into the fact that other Englishes exist. Like some of you wrote in, I don't remember who, but you wrote in the comment, I didn't even know that we could teach this, that we could learn about the existence of other Englishes. So I'm not all that useless. But anyway. Plus, they say that teachers should neglect, or at least put aside, some areas that are particularly problematic about L2 learners. Okay, just consider the usage of prepositions and how difficult that is for people who are learning English. And so these scholars say, well, just put them aside. They're not important when they're going to speak English as a lingua franca. And then they say to avoid using the word errors and mistakes when you're talking about English from an English as a lingua franca point of view. Okay, because remember that there would be no such a thing as mistakes in this approach. Does this mean that I'm going to accept all your mistakes? No, forget about it. No, it's not going to happen. Remember what I told you about the expanding circle. Just joking, but that should give you well, that makes you that should make you think anyway. And then they say, okay, the aim is communication, so you should not focus on grammar and accuracy from a lexical point of view. Just try to get your students get the message across. And most importantly, these classes should aim at promoting intercultural communication. Okay, exchanges, language. You know that language conveys not only words; it conveys cultures, it conveys worlds and points of view. So you should focus on that. Okay, so you need to talk about global diversities. Don't stress on aspects that are problematic, and so don't talk about errors or mistakes. Focus on communication and its language as a vehicle to convey cultural aspects, cultural diversity. Then, what does this other scholar say? Sedelhofer, 2011. Well, he goes a little further and he says, well, conforming to English as a native language norms, to the norms of English that is used by native speakers, is not necessary because you have to get the message across. That's the aim of communication. So it doesn't matter if you make mistakes. It doesn't matter if you don't use language in a using, let's say, proper grammar, the one that you were supposed to learn. And so you have to aim at being effective rather than being perfect. Or at least with perfect, I mean using the grammar rules of the inner circle. Okay, so basically what Sedelhofer says is use language to communicate. It doesn't matter if it's not respecting the inner circle rules. And finally, yes, it's the last scholar. According to Wen, again, we're back in 2012. English has to be used for effective communication. But it is highly linked to the culture someone belongs to. And it makes pretty much sense because when we communicate, when we're using words, we do not put our culture aside. It's always there. Okay? And so English has to be taught not only from a linguistic point of view, a language point of view, but it also has to consider cultural and pragmatic aspects. Okay. And so this is what Wen suggests when it comes to teaching English. Sorry, the suggestions were above. So looking at these three scholars' suggestions, if you want, in the comment box, you can think about, or just think about it for your exam, what do you think are the suggestions that you liked and the ones that you didn't like very much, if any? think are the advantages or disadvantages of learning or teaching English in this way, if comparing it to the traditional way of teaching English? ELT stands for English Language Teaching. So what do you think are the advantages or disadvantages? And then, most importantly, well, no, not most importantly, but it's something that is close to you. How far do you think this would be suitable for the classroom where you have been learning well, in my case, teaching English? And last one, how would you respond if your teacher followed any of these suggestions? Of course, comments are open to any type of comments or suggestions about the course, and maybe this can be the moment where you can give me some feedback. What are the things that you liked about the course? What are the things that you didn't like about the course? What are the things that you would add? What do you think about teaching about varieties of English within your context, those of people who are learning English not as a second language, but as a foreign language? Just let me know about your thoughts, and anything you write is going to be pretty constructive for the years to come. Now, let's move on to the second part of what I wanted to tell you today. And we're going to talk about English medium instruction and CLIL, content and language integrated learning, which are nowadays basically considered the same. But it's about teaching subjects through English, basically. And so Dalton Puffer and Smith, I have to check, I think it's Smith, describe CLIL in this way. So the aim is, it's all about teaching, about using English in the pattern of, within the field of English as a lingua franca, or as a foreign English. And the thing is that you can start teaching other subjects through English, according to these scholars, once the learners already know something about the subject in their mother tongue. What happens with CLIL is that usually teachers are non-native speakers of English. And so when the timetable is scheduled, there are CLIL classes, okay, where they give you content, they give you information about a subject, and then English is taught by language specialists. So for instance, I don't know, let's say that this were, I don't know, let's say that you decide to attend a university where they use the CLIL method. So you're going to learn, I don't know, history, math, geography, philosophy in English, for instance. And then you're going to have English classes that focus on grammar, for instance, and other things, other subjects. And so, let's look at how English as a lingua franca is used in the academic field. And what are the traditional and non-traditional approaches to academic English? Okay, so the A that you see here stands for academic. First question for you. What do you think? Would these be considered mistakes, errors, or not? And the answer is pretty simple. The use of, let's say, that of prepositions, meaning that you say you use the wrong preposition at university, like obsession in, insist for, or study or discuss about. What would happen if you would say if you said something like this? Or if you regularize suffixes like interpretate, or use adjectives like systematical, use uncountable nouns, using them as count nouns like researches or feedbacks. Well, for you, the answer is quite obvious. So as you can see, from an academic point of view, English as a lingua franca is not accepted, at least on the formal level. Okay? It is pretty okay if you use it when you're talking with other colleagues, but when you use it with teachers, especially when they have to assess, evaluate your English, your language skills, that is not accepted. Okay? We're not there. And maybe we should not. Let me know. So what's going on with English used at for higher education? With higher education, they mean university, okay, in the academic field. You all know that some universities show off that international label. Why do they do that? Because obviously they want to get funds, right? They want to show that the university is a good university. It wants to attract both foreign students and teachers, and also staff. They want to get collaborations for research with other scholars that work in other systems and at other universities. It is quite a prestigious thing to have been a visiting professor abroad during your academic career, for instance. And it's also prestigious for you if you attend part of your university courses abroad. So a couple of questions for you. What do you think about English-mediated instruction that is grounded in native English? So basically, what do you think about using English-mediated instruction and focusing on inner circle Englishes, inner circle varieties of English? And what do you think about the system of English-mediated instruction? Is it an advantage or a disadvantage when it comes to learning content? So basically, what do you think, for instance, about learning about history through English if you are not a native speaker? And finally, do you think that the use of English as a lingua franca in higher education at university could be an advantage or a disadvantage for other languages? Could it mean the loss of other languages or not? And if you think so, what do you recommend to avoid this? And as for today, the song is You follow me down. Today's song is You'll Follow Me Down. Survived tonight. I may be going down, because everything goes round too. Tight tonight. Because everything goes round too tight tonight. And you may, and as you watch me fall, you stand for more. And your panic-stricken blood will thicken up tonight. Because I don't want you to forgive me. You'll follow me down, you'll follow me down. Survive tonight. I see your heads exposed. So we shall kill constructive might. That's right. As your emotion fool you, my strong will rule. I won't feel restrained watching you close sense down. I can't compensate, but that's more than I've got to give. Beautiful voice, definitely better than mine. Give me a second and I'll find you the link and I'll put it in the comment box. Okay, so while I give you the link, while I copy and paste the link, it's not that I'm on the beach, people. It's just that I'm on the terrace because other people just to be alone. Give me a second. I'll give you the link. So what was I saying? Okay. So tomorrow is going to be our last class. But if you need to ask me anything, whatever you need to say, just use my email. Remember to book your classes, to go on my pagina personale docente, see how you do that, and also the videos. Watch the videos that I gave you about exams. Remember that the mock that the first part of the exam is going to be on English language, just like you've been practicing with your mother tongue teachers. And then I'll just recap that tomorrow, so it's not a problem. So let me put the link here for the song. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow. Bye.